Hi, everybody. It's that time. 5 o'clock, and I'm going to paint. So today, I wanted to tackle the subject of transferring the light from one picture to another picture. I'm going to use the light from this one, which is sort of late in the day and the sun is just going down and there's cool shadows. We're looking mostly east and pretty much east. And there are cool shadows. There's little bits of this lovely orangey pinkish light coming through here, kissing the tops of the dirt, the trees, which are higher up, of course. And then I want to apply it to this scene here, which is the ice jams on the Des Moines River, which I looked at the date on this picture. It's from March 4th, 2019. So 6 years ago and what? 5 days ago. Hello, Renee. So I want to use this and I want to transfer the light from that. Now, how do you do that? One of the things that'll help is if you pick lighting from one scene and transfer it to the lighting of another scene. It's very helpful if in both scenes you're looking pretty much the same direction. And here we are looking east, southeast. So this, we're not, it'd be kind of like if I were looking that way. I'm looking this way. They're about 45 minutes an hour apart. So I'm going to transfer that. And as you can see, this is probably about 20 minutes, a half an hour before this kind of lighting starts. So that's rule number one. See if you can come up with a lighting situation and the subject that you want to paint that are more or less looking the same direction. Hi, Michael. So this is a little skinnier, I think, than what I'm working here, but I love these ice jams that happen on the river when things start to warm up, which it is. I'm going to make the horizon line a little higher than it is in this picture. That's the horizon line, but I'm going to call it the water line. So I'm just roughly penciling that in. This comes down. There's another section that comes down here. Also, compositionally, I should talk about. There's a bank here. This is in Bentonsport. If you can see here, this goes that way, this goes that way, and that, of course, is level. So if we can pitch these lines toward each other and not arrive in the middle, might help. I'm going to run these trees up maybe a little higher, just be very, loosely drawing. I want to... So I'm cutting a bit of the sky off here. And then there's the trees up here. So you notice I'm not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the trees. I'm trying to be short, long, short kind of thing. And then there's some trees down here near the bank that I'm going to... If it was music, it wouldn't be a disco beat. Boom, bada, boom, bada, boom, bada, boom. It would be more of a melodic kind of thing going on. So a lot of this is going to get painted, but the important line is that one. So let's darken that up. Now we've got a little bit, these are the very shallow area here on the river, and the water moves pretty quickly. But these lovely broken up icy shapes, you know, I'm going to go ahead and do it. I don't care. A water line needs to be level. So no shame in using a ruler when you need a level line. I'm also going to bring some of this ice up, perhaps so that I have a wedge shape in here where the water is moving. I'm desperately trying to avoid creating bands. Boy, I tell you that compositionally, horizontal bands in a landscape really give us the, make life hard for us. And any way that you can smuggle in a diagonal or an irregular shape, like this tree that has come down river, or that one that has come down river, anything like that will help you break up, maybe cut across. That only comes to here, but I might make it come up to here and cross that line so that we know that this is in front of that. And we would know that, but it really helps enhance the illusion. Okay. I'm not going to draw a lot because I really do. Well, maybe I'll draw some of these shapes. There's like a triangular shape down here. There's a lovely star shape over here. There's a kind of a parallelogram shape over here. And there's a series of smaller shapes all over the place. Shape coming in there. And we can make these up. They borrow from what you see. Because with something like this, anything could happen. I like the fact that this is not symmetrical. It's a little higher here than there. So it keeps it from looking like a piece of broccoli. So I'm going to try and utilize that. Notice that I'm creating a small space here, a big space here. It's going to be more apparent when I actually start painting this stuff, because I'm desperately trying not to make the pencil lines too dark. There are some buildings and things back here. I'm always a little bit gun shy of making the background more active than the foreground, because I always want space and I want light. If I can get that, I don't care if I got a building or whatever in there. So now, planning the color. This kind of color. I look at this and I say, what's going on? It's the opposite of what we're told. That warm colors are supposed to advance and cool colors are supposed to recede. Hi, Kathy. Here we have cool colors in the front and reds, orange, yellows, things like that in the distance. So what's going to happen here? When you see a situation like that, and my goodness, hello, Noel. She's up late. Bonsoir, Noel. You have to, when you see a situation where the so-called warm color is in the back and the so-called cool color is in the front, you have to say that this will be a more vivid blue and that will be a duller warm color. So I'm going to get out my palette. It's the usual paints, the usual suspects. Quinacridone Rose, Burnt Sienna and Transparent Red Iron Oxide, Neutral Tint, Ultramarine Blue, Yellow Ochre, Naphthol Red, Holbein Lavender, Cadmium Yellow, Cobalt Blue, Cerulean Blue, Cadmium Orange or Azo Orange, some kind of weird yellow, Prussian Blue, Cobalt Turquoise. So I want to make this weird sky color back here. And then I want to progress to the colors in the front. So I have to have all of them mixed up. Hello, Mickey. So this is snow. That's ice. That'll translate. You might be standing here and about 15, 20 minutes later, it would start to look like this. So these trees are going to get that color, and this ice is going to get that color. So I have to have, several puddles. I have to have that color, some of this, some of this, some of this, and then I have to change to that. So I have to have all those colors mixed up. Yeah, Kathy, you're right. This sky, it's green, it's pink, it's purple, it's blue, there's yellow ochre in there. It's just impossible. And I stare at it year after year, and I just like, what is going on? So the way to do it, I'm going to make a puddle of the lightest color, which I'm going to be a little bit of the yellow ochre and a bit of the orange. Very runny, very runny. Lots of water, very little pigment. Then I need some of the Quinacridone Rose. Again, runny. And then I'm going to need some, the blues. Oh my goodness, the blues. There are some strong blues in here, some strong blues here. But the snow here, which would be the ice there, is going to have to be, goodness, I think I'm going to make it cerulean or cobalt. And of course, I am painting the lightest colors first. And there's a little bit of this orangey pink sneaking through, which I'm going to try to have somewhere in there. So here we go. Well, I'm also going to have to put some blue up in there, aren't I? I'm going to start with the orange, get a bead going. Then I'm going to rinse the brush, go over to the crimson. Now I'm going to have to switch to a little bit of this blue. Back to rinse the brush, get the blue out, back to the orange. Hello, Patty. I want this orange is supposed to be this business there. Maybe even a little bit of that pink in it. Now I have to really get down busy with the blue, because this is where all that's the white is going to become blue. Not the darkest blues, but let's even make it, because I'm trying to anticipate, so to speak, what it would look like if I were standing here and waiting for that lighting situation to happen. Now here, I'm going to have to dry it. So we're going to go to the mute. Okay. Now I've got my lighter colors laid in. I need to do some using a brush that's a little bit smaller and uses, it's almost as big, but it holds less paint. So I'm going to the Oriental brush. I need to get in some of these ochres and sienna. Oops. These colors are going to become those colors. And this is useful. I hope. Well, I don't know. The way to get an eye for color is just to go outside and just behold nature and thank God for every beautiful color that appears, because it's all so beautiful. So I have to make these browns and yellow ochres more sienna colored. So I'm going to start with the yellow ochre, and then I'm going to put a little bit of the burnt sienna or red iron oxide in there. But I'm also going to have to dip into my blues to get those shadowed areas. So I'm going to stay up here, not painting into the trees. I'm on the ground at this point. As the brush exhausts, I might go up to the trees. I probably could have done that darker. I'm very timid that way. I'm always wishing that I had gone and done that a little harder. So let's get into that blue, or those blues we were just using. Come underneath that. Leave a little bit of this warmth here. And let it mingle with what's above it. Because we're going to put some darker stuff on top of this. See how that brush is like, I'm pushing it down and I'm making a footprint. So I'm going to make the beginnings of these trees. Very important that I make this one higher than those, because they're closer to us in space. And of course, it's a mess right now, but we're going to get there. We really are. We hope. Okay. So next, underneath this is the flowing water, which is kind of greenish grayish. So I'm going to take some turquoise and neutral tint and a little bit of yellow ochre. And again, leaving little bits of white here and there because I can always do them darker later. Let's make it a little more yellow ochre. Ooh, that's maybe too olive. Let's see. Maybe not. The Des Moines River is a gorgeous subject all year round. All rivers are. Find a river near you and use it. They just change themselves day after day after day. Now, yep, I could have gone darker there. Doggone it. Let's look at this. Okay. So, in here we have these areas. This is going to require some blue, ultramarine or cobalt, either one will do, and a little thicker, meaning more pigment, less water. In some of these areas. So I'm just squinting my eyes and looking for where is it darker. Now this isn't the last thing I'm going to put in by any stretch. I'm kind of working towards the medium colors. I'm going to start putting a little bit of quinacridone rose in there to make it purplish. There are some spots here where the ice is breaking up and where the water is running. Okay. Maybe I should be looking at this. Needs to be darker. My goodness, yes. Okay. Cerulean. A little bit of water. Good question, Renee. Maybe not. I could probably, if I'm careful, let's do it. I will do it after I'm working on these areas. I'll glaze it. And when we say glaze, what we mean is we are putting a running mix of paint on top of an area which has already been painted, but is dry. And that's the important part. It's dry. So I'm going to use a broken stroke here to make a little bit darker blue down the bottom. So problem, I could have gone darker here and I could have gone darker there. But I have an inherent timidity, which means I'm also going to have to go a little bit darker some places in here. So I took the yellow ochre and threw it into the cerulean blue. It's going to be some sticks or logs sticking up here. Of course, with watercolor, you're always working light to dark. More of this. Hello, Carlene. Carlene is a fabulous watercolorist. I'm wondering if she's watching. And she ain't bad at oil painting either. Now these areas in here, they're going to be darker than this, but there are some areas in there that are blue. So I need to get those with this. So working my way up. And trying not to space things equally. It's very important, if I can avoid it, to make things unequal. I'm finally getting around to painting this kind of subject, which I have been looking at for I don't know how long. Every winter, I go out and I see this and I think, oh man, that is so cool, and I don't paint it. And it's probably because it's bloody cold. It's warm today. We don't know what we're going to get next week. So my garlic is up. I'm all excited. I just hope the frost doesn't do anything to mess it up, or my other little things. I'm checking my herbs, see if they're coming back. Pretty soon I want to plant shallots. Okay, so, oh yeah, this is dark. It's even getting some brown in there. Slowly but surely we're going to make this happen, or something very like it. And you don't have to worry about getting this exactly right, because this is something that changes second by second. And oh, Carlene, the day I took this picture, I think you were there. We were all painting. The group of us. So this ultramarine blue that I've put down is still damp. The paper surface is still damp. And because I touched this in while the blue is still damp, it kind of melts in. And I'm going to try and pay attention to where it's dark and where it's light. Oh my goodness. Now back here, I think I need a little more blue in the mix. Because what we're looking at is a bank which is basically dirt with some snow on it in places. So a more bluish mix. I'm going to start pulling uphill into what will be some of these trees. Again, I'm desperately trying to not space them evenly. More brown, more of the sienna or transparent red iron oxide, perhaps a little bit of water. So as I get over here, the color I use here and the color I use there, just a little bit different. Anything that's the same stays in the same plane. So you want to make sure that something's closer to you or farther from you, but you're using a different color. More blue. Don't put all of those trees right on the bank. Have some of them further up the hill there if you can get away with it. Or if you remember, I guess the better term. More turquoise. A little bit of quinacridone rose. One of the things that I love about these Oriental brushes is they split on you. And so you get an irregular mark, which I think is good. Looks more natural to me. If it's too precise, then the mark I make is going to be too... Let's see, there's actually a hair coming off of this thing. I'm going to try to drag it around, see if I can use it. So now as I'm painting this, I'm starting to think about the planes of these broken pieces of ice. Some of them are like this, some of them are like that, some of them are like so. All of that will help me create that weird broken ice pattern, which as I think back, I may have seen a painting by a German painter named Caspar David Friedrich of something like that, but in the Arctic, and it was very emotionally beautiful. Now back here, that's a little further away, so I'm glazing over that dry area with this turquoise mix. So I am using some of the same colors in the background as in the foreground, but I am going to do a little more work back there. Before that, I need to get some strong cerulean ultramarine. As you can see, I'm working my way up from lighter to medium to darks. And for example, this bank, it's very dark, very ultramarine all the way along its length, but I'm not going to do that. This is closer to me than that. So I'm going to put a little more of that at this end and a little less at that end. Even though you see it there, it doesn't mean you have to put it there. So... some dark, strong darks in here, stronger darks. Is that the right word? Maybe I'll put a little more of the burnt sienna in it, and I'll start to pull up more. I need it to be almost orangey because, see the dirt, it's kind of the color of a truffle, black truffle here, but over here it's the color of more like cocoa powder. So anything that's catching the light is going to be a little warmer or a little redder. I'm probably going to need to take some of that, rinse the brush, this same color I'm mixing, in a bit more water, and get the brush kind of dry. And maybe even blot it on the, yeah. So I'm going to try to do things like that. Using the side of my brush. Okay, so a little bit more ultramarine in that to, while it's wet, to be these parts. Now let's even go for some cerulean. Because if I need to lift it, it will lift well. As will ultramarine, as will burnt sienna or red iron oxide. More of the brownish orangish mix. That's too orange. So what do? I'll take it down while it's damp with a little bit of blue. So, oops. All my blues. A little bit of the crimson. There is some purplishness back in here, but it's a dull purple. That area is damp. There's still water on the surface of the paper, so I'm trying to use that. That's the whole trick to watercolor, knowing what the condition of the paper is before you stick a consistency of paint into it. If you've been working there, it's going to be damp. So there'll be water on the surface. So you need to either not paint there or bring in paint that is more pigment than water, because there's already water there. That's the, oops, well, we're going to make something out of that. So if the light's coming from this side, Any shadows, let's get some ultramarine and a little bit of the quinacridone rose to make a purplish color. Any shadows are going to be cast to that side. And if there's a hill behind there, the shadows will be cast uphill. Actually, there's a bridge there. But I'm going to pretend it's not there. Now, sticks. Where else can I create cracks? Ice, planes of ice jam. Be careful, I'm trying to be very careful not to evenly space them. That needs to be dark. Right in here needs to be dark. Because one, it's close to us. So a lot of the the red iron oxide and a lot of the ultramarine blue. My strongest darks I'm going to try to put closest to me to give the impression that I'm standing near this. Big marks, small marks. So, if there's a stick coming up, caught in the ice here, there ought to be a bluish cast shadow behind it. Let's get some ultramarine. Well, something in here. This needs to be darker. Yes. Ultramarine. Cobalt, cerulean. This is where it gets hard. Where should I paint here? Shouldn't I paint here? I'm going to make a little bit of darker stuff on this end. And not so much here. Now a lighter, greener blue with more water. Lighter meaning there's more water in it. Getting maybe some cerulean too. Getting the side of these that is tipped away from the light. In other words, if the light's coming this way, then anything tipped towards the right is going to be a little darker because it's getting less light. I hope I get it right. We'll see. My goodness. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry what I have now and then go in with those very last marks. put the mute on. Now that more or less dry everywhere. So this is going to allow me, I hope, to glaze our sky a little darker. And I think to help that, well, thank you, Kathy. The table is tilted at a angle about like that. So to make the water run this way so that it's lighter here and darker there, I'm going to mix up some turquoise and maybe a little bit of cerulean and some quinacridone rose to get something purplish. Well, let's make it decently dark. Higher contrast usually gives more drama. It's pink, isn't it? Doggone it. Ooh, okay. That tells me something right there. Okay, this, to be this light on that subject, I need a pinker sky and a bluer foreground. So, I should not be putting blue here, I should be putting pink here. Let's mix a puddle of pink. Pink being the quinacridone rose. Maybe even a little bit of the orange. So I've got a puddle there. I'm rinsing the brush. I'm starting here with just plain water. And then I'm switching to the pink. Oh, let's make it pinker. Right through the other stuff. And I'm going to have to dry that before I turn it over and do this. Otherwise my pink is going to go down there. So, well, doggone it, while it's still wet, let's make it warmer and pinker. That's going to look overdone, but it's going to dry lighter. So I'm squeezing the brush out and I'm mopping up the excess, and then I'm going to mute and dry. Okay, yeah, okay, I like that better. Now I just need to get this, do the same thing, a glaze, to make this a bit darker, and then go in with those final darks. So, glaze being a runny mix of paint applied to a surface which already has paint on it, and yeah, doggone it. Not everywhere. I'm going to start again, just as I did the sky where I put water here and then more paint there. I'm going to do water here and then more paint down there. So rinsing the brush, getting clear water, starting up there, then going to this paint down here with a gentle touch coming over everything so that I don't disturb it too much. And then I'll have to dry it again. Oh my goodness, I'm going to have to get really dark down the front and maybe even a little bit of reddishness in it. Hopefully I haven't disturbed those other things too much. Oh goodness, let's see. Where would that happen? Here? Here? Just a little bit of the lighter area in the back, hopefully portraying the idea that the light is kissing those bits just ever so slightly, which means I will have to make that area back there a little darker because it's more in shadow. And then I'll have to dry this. Oh, you're very welcome, Renee. A lot of back and forth with this hairdryer. Now, normally, when I paint, I prefer to allow stuff to dry on its own. So now I really have to make my darks dark, selectively. So ultramarine, red iron oxide, and I'm going to try and use these dark areas to lead the eye through the painting. So the ice would be a bit thicker here. So these marks will be closer up, they'll be thicker. And as I go back, they'll get a little thinner. And perhaps even a little bluer. Okay. Smaller, thinner. Little bits of things to connect them. Or even if I just move things so that it's ever so slightly closer. Another branch or something coming out of the... There's a whole tree under here. That's kind of where the ice was, I'm guessing, why it was piling up there. Now this area of the river, it's kind of that grayish turquoise. Gray-green. That needs to be a little darker to make this area in here look a little whiter. So I'm glazing that area as well. And leaving bits of the original color behind. Oh, yes, tape. No, it's a black masking tape. Electrical tape would probably be a little too strong. The reason I use black tape instead of, I cannot stand that blue or green painter's tape, because when I look at the painting, I see it as a color, and I read it into the mix of colors that I use, and it confuses me, and I make bad color choices. So I use black or tan masking tape because the problem I have with the tan is it's very close to the white of the paper. And I will accidentally, I think I've got more space over here than I actually have, and I will accidentally sometimes paint something too close to the edge and then wished I hadn't. Whereas when I have a piece of black tape there, I know that's the end of the world. I can't, nothing is going to happen after that. So it helps me a lot. You know, it's just, some people put that painter's tape on there and it doesn't bother them at all. And I envy them. I wished I could see through that kind of stuff. I just can't. Okay, so I'm just adding some greenish turquoise on the plane of that. Now at this point, this is where I'm going to start. Well, I do see some things I want to change. Okay, some of the darks. I need to make some connections. So you'll notice I'm staying, when I have a shape like this, I'm putting the dark to one side or the other, not on both. That way, I hope it looks like one side is tilted towards the light and the other side is tilted away from the light. So again, just a simple mix of ultramarine blue and the red iron oxide. Oh, what do I want? What do I want? Yes, black masking tape. Cindy has it at Artbeat. You can also buy it from Blick, but Cindy has it for pretty much the same price, and you can go down there and grab a roll. And the other thing I like about the black masking tape, I've noticed that the adhesive doesn't seem to be as strong as some of the, don't buy the 3M expensive masking tape because the adhesive is too powerful. And when you peel it up, it pulls the fibers of the paper off. So I find that the black stuff or the inexpensive tan stuff doesn't create that problem. And if you do find, that, oh, I'm trying to pull my tape up and it's starting to pull up fibers of the paper, stop, get your hairdryer out, warm up the tape, and that will loosen the adhesive. And you'll be able to take it off a little easier. Okay, so I think this is where I'm going to start pulling tape. So, another thing is, you notice I pull it at a right angle. That helps too, rather than pulling it parallel to the thing. And you will find that if you're using the inexpensive papers, that the fibers pull up easier than the more expensive papers, because the more expensive papers are more expensive because they've been surface sized, and are therefore a little stronger in that respect. Whereas the less expensive papers have only been sized in the pulp, in the vat. And it's literally the thing that makes the expensive paper more expensive is the fact that there was an extra process that had to be done, and they couldn't get it out the door to sell as quick, and you had to pay somebody to do it, and that's pretty much what it is. Now I notice here I need to get my eye over to from this stuff. So I'm going to get some ultramarine, not the black, just the ultramarine, and I need to work my way up to this guy. You can literally lead the eye with your marks. Z's, S's, they always work. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can lead the eye where I want it to go. Well, thank you, Kathy. Yes, we do. When the light is right, this part of the world is as beautiful as any other. I'm being careful with my trees here, the bare trees. I don't want these trees to be evenly spaced. It's just human nature to, I think it's our heartbeat and the fact that our hand has a particular size and radius. We tend to make an equal mark. So, there it is. Bonaparte, Iowa, on the Des Moines River. Oh, wait a minute. I just saw something. I need to make it a little darker. There. So when you have an area that's dark next to an area that's light, it's going to attract the eye. We can't help it. It's just how it is because it's contrast, and our eye picks it up immediately. So if you want this to be a focal point, create more contrast there, which contrast is simply dark and light. So there we are, Bonaparte, Iowa, in winter. Remember that when you're trying to translate the light from one scene to another scene, just, and this applies if you're on location, even more so. I mean, if you wanted to paint this, you don't set up and start painting when it's like that. You set up maybe a half hour before this, and you anticipate what is coming. So that would be in the afternoon. In the morning, you have to anticipate how it's going to go away. And stick with that. So remember to, if you're with the reference photos, if you're trying to get something like this on that, make sure you're more or less looking the same direction. Scan the difference in the color top to bottom, left to right, front to back. 3D. Front to back, left to right, top to bottom. There's going to be some change. So, okay, it's dark to light. It's bluer to warmer colors. Because this is a vertical photo, we're not seeing much change there. Here with a horizontal, you can see more change. See how that water there is a little bit lighter than this, over here. Left side of a ice thing is darker, right side is lighter. Just look for those things. I mean, the eye is amazing. Our eye will tell us everything we need to know to paint. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Michael. I hope everybody stays safe, stay sane, and just enjoy this beautiful weather. This would be a great time to get out and take a walk. So, peace out.